Well, hey there, this is Jerry, and I was getting started on another episode of What's Broke Today. And today, I'm going to get started on this is a 1995 Mustang, the SN95 body style. Um, I'm getting, there was coolant in the oil, and also last time it was driven, um, was having trouble with the idle. And I believe what has happened is it blew out the intake manifold gasket. Because if you notice, we have two turbos hanging out on the side of this. So, and I think the boost, it blew out the gasket because I don't know that we necessarily used the correct gasket when this was initially put together. Um, I don't know that it was really the proper gasket for the application. And of course, I've got a Felpro Performance intake gasket set to put on it, part number 1250. But yeah, we've got to get the intake off. I got to mark some of the wires because, just to make sure that I get, things hooked up back like they should be. That I'm gonna take a picture with my phone, and I'm actually gonna do some marking of things, and then we'll rearrange a little here in the garage. Because I don't want. I wasn't gonna put this outside to work on it. I may end up pushing it backwards just a little bit, see if I got room to roll it back, I don't know, a couple feet. That way I can use my table over here to set stuff on. So, but let me get some stuff ready and I'll come back. Okay, well, I got a few tools together. I do have the coolant is draining. I'm going to start out with, I'm going to come back here and loosen the clamps on the boot going from the turbo pipe into the throttle body. Okay. I pull that off. Unplug the idle air control valve. And up hardwiring the throttle position sensor. So I take the two bolts out. Hold it. And pull that out of there. Now there I just unclipped the throttle cable from the throttle shaft. Of course I need probably a 12 millimeter for that to take the bracket off the intake. I'm going to come over here on the intake, and before we get our vacuum for our brakes and our PCV valve, which that's something I'm going to change because I don't really want those sharing the same vacuum port. But that's something I should have thought of a long time ago. I'll come here and loosen that, loosen that. And I think those other ones are 7/16. Or no, I just didn't get my 3/8 on it when I put it down there the first time. I've got 2 more of those in the rear. I almost need to pull the distributor out. Get me a little more room here. Okay, there's all 4 of those. Get back in the socket rack. 2 bolts out. And I think, yep. Now we got that loose. Let's just lift it up, pull it back, and see what else is hooked. Oh, I got vacuum lines underneath. Oh. Okay. There's our trick flow intake off. Carefully peel the spacer up. There's one gasket. Because I was going to have to pull this off to make sure I got the right new gaskets for here. There's our insulating spacer. Pull that up, which actually the top gasket's probably okay. That one's, oh, the bottom one's the one that broke. So, okay, I forgot to turn the camera on, but one thing I did, I unplugged the coolant temperature sensor in the intake for the gauge. We'll come up here and loosen up our on top of, because this is a fuel pressure gauge. I'm just going to take that off and disconnect the wires. And I marked that with green paint because that's the green wires. Get that out of the way. And then I'm just going to take it, get underneath here, and I'm just going to unscrew and remove our fuel pressure gauge adapter. That I don't know why they make them so long, but they do. So, yeah, now I got to get a 1/2 inch stuff, and need to mark all my plug wires so I can pull them off. I think I think my cap has number 1 marked already, I think. But if nothing else, I'm just gonna, because my coil wire is easy to figure out. And I'll just go around to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then mark 1, and probably start out here at the little knock point, because I have to get the distributor out to get the fuel rails up off there. Even though I probably could probably pull the intake and just unhook the fuel lines here where they're connected, because the bolts aren't underneath the yeah, they're not under blocked by the fuel injectors. Just got to, things like my where my distributor plugs in that's in the way. Things like my blow off valve. I can pull the hoses out of the way and pull them back up, because I will definitely need those later. So, all right. I'll get some more tools and come back after lunch. All right, getting started on the next phase of Mustang. And so I took and marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 all the way around, put a 1 on the cap. So I'm just going to pull these off, lay them over to the side. Or out of the way somehow. Okay. Take the cap off. See which way the rotor's pointing. And it's pointing at an angle like that. And I should have brought my paint pen back with me. Well, I think I'll just get my phone or take my camera here and come up and take a close up of my distributor and see the rotor where it's pointing. There we go. I pull that up around there. Let's see. That's stuck on there pretty good. There we go. That out of the way. I'm going to come down here and loosen the clamp for the bypass hose. Loosen this clamp up here for the radiator hose, or heater hose, I should say. Yeah. Plug that temperature sensor. Get out of the way. Plug our distributor. Get it out of there. Plug the coil. Take the nut off of it and get it out of the way. Okay. Washer on there for some reason. All right, well, I gotta find something different to deal with that one fuel line, but I thought for now we could take our little pick tool and unplug our fuel injectors. All right, then we'll come back here and okay. That's the other heater hose. That hurt. To do much either. There, oh, there goes coolant running out. But I got it off there. Okay. All right. I think I'll pull the distributor next. Okay. Well, I gave up on getting that apart because everything I had for that, none of it worked. So what I did was I took the 4 bolts out holding the rails to the intake. I'm just going to see if I can work these injectors all up out of here. Okay, there's 4. Three, 4. Okay. I can just pick this up and fold it over here out of the way for now. Looks like all my O-rings stayed on. Okay, now we just got to get our intake bolts out. I can just come up and forward and out. So, start with a 1/2 inch back there. Get that nut off that coolant pipe. Okay. Those were very tight. Almost makes me wonder if I didn't get them torqued down good. Okay. That's all our bolts. Another thing I got in the way is this harness. So I probably have to come up, go back, get away from that harness, and then I can come forward and out. Okay, here we go. All right, back here at the 95 Mustang that I'm ready to put the intake manifold back on. And to start out with, I went and bought Permatex. Went up and bought Permatex Ultra Black. That probably, in my opinion, one of the best things I could use on this intake. And I'm going to start out with, I'm going to go to my water ports because there is some pitting around them. I'm going to put a layer of silicone around each one of the water ports. And go clear down and catch the corner where the head meets the block too. Okay, so that should take care of that. And then next, I'm going to grab my intake gaskets. I took the side that's going toward the heads and sprayed them with my Ultra Copper from Permatex on the head side. Also cut out this little goopy thing that's in the water passage. They'll be up here at the front. I'm just going to take these down on there. Make sure I got them seated good in my silicone. Though that's one thing I want to make sure is that wherever the gasket touches the head, that it's covered in silicone. I'm also going to try and somewhat keep them lined up with the intake ports, but I know once I put the intake on, all bets are off on that. But that's going to look good. Then we'll come back. I'm also going to do the same thing with the silicone on those ports, that where it's going to meet the intake. Put a thin layer. Not quite as worried about being as thick, and probably be okay because these are those blue Prento Seal um, gaskets, but and mainly here at the right front, because as best I can tell, it was corrosion on the head where the other gasket lined up, and I really think I used the wrong gaskets last time. So I'm gonna get my tube ready. And of course, before I started all this, I cleaned everything real good with brake clean and wiped her down so that I didn't have any oil or grease. Because when I pulled the intake off this time, these front and rear lips weren't really sealing good. I'm gonna put a good strong 1/4 inch bead all the way down and then up on the head gasket, on the intake gasket. And this is probably more than I need, but there we go. Now grab my intake and just do one last wipe of these surfaces. Not nothing too extensive because I took the intake out and literally hosed it down with brake clean to clean dust, dirt, grease, and stuff off. Okay, now the not so fun part is getting this in here. I'll line it up with my bypass hose and see if I can get it on the bypass hose as I set it down, which I get the thing back there out of the way and on top of the intake. Okay, under that, drop that down. Okay, and there we go. We're on there, and then I'm going to take I got Whizlock flange-headed bolts. I'm going to actually apply Loctite too. That's hard to start bolts when you're holding everything, because I do not want these coming loose this time. And then the one thing that AFR and me do somewhat disagree on is they do not want you using a torque wrench on these bolts, which just drives me nuts. But they don't want you over torquing them and pulling the threads out of their heads, because they do not helicoil their bolt holes. So I will respect them and not get my torque wrench. Okay, so we're going to do this in a cross pattern. So there's little there, little there. Okay, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up this hose clamp on the bypass, so don't forget. Well, now we can let that set, and I'll get around and got to figure out. Let me cover that up just so we keep dirt out. But this goofy um, heater hose pipe, I'm not real crazy about it. So I've got a fitting ordered, and I think I was gonna not sure this will get drove in the winter, so I'm debating on whether to hook the heater core up or just loop the hoses. Um, this really isn't a cold weather car, so, but yeah, for now we're gonna give this a break, let that silicone set up, and then the next thing we'll come back and do is we gotta put the injectors back down on there, and then put the upper intake on and hook everything else back up. Hey, a T, and the more I look at this, the more I think my idea. Let's look over here, and that should start. And of course, need some conduit for the. That there, and there's that. Now I gotta go get my hose and see. Pull that up. 3/4 on the other. Okay, well, I got busy doing things. I have to turn the camera back on, but since I had a 5/8 fitting there at the back, and I didn't, on the water pump it is 3/4. I'm actually going to be flowing the heater core backwards because it just saves having extra fittings and stuff. So I was getting my heater hose figured out and cut, and I'm gonna run the 5/8 to the intake, and then the 3/4 down to the water pump, which isn't ideal, but it works. Okay. So I'm just going to run this underneath all those wires. And then, of course, I swapped out this fitting here for a 5/8, which luckily I had one here that was 1/2 inch national pipe thread on and 5/8 barb. The hardest thing is getting it slid up on that fitting. Probably should have put some silicone on it. Okay, see if I can get it back up off there. And I probably can't. I got some spray silicone and get one of those little sticks I can put on this and see if I can hit sprays. Got to kind of watch where I use silicone because, say, if there's something I'm going to paint later, silicone tends to affect, just having it in the air seems to affect um, paint. So I'm up at the house, so I usually don't paint up here, so I should be okay. Of course, I get my hose clamp and slide it down. Got to go from back there, up here and down. Oh. I'm going to start out with it about that long. Want it a little too long and then have to shorten it later. Out of the way. Well, that almost slides on there too easy. Um, Let me go check that hose I took off of that. Okay, well, it turns out that this hose is actually a little bigger than I think it should be, because I found the hose I took off of there and compared, took a 5/8 inch fitting and tried to slide on it, or slide it on a 5/8 fitting, and it just fell loose down on it. So I'm going to just put that down there and slide my worm drive clamp down. Okay, we're going to call that good. And then we got to pull these spark plug wires kind of out of the way. Yeah, let me get that clamp off of there for now. So I have to push it through. This and kind of run it through like so. I'll shorten that up a little because I know I got it way too long. See what that looks like. Oh yeah, that will work. Then I can take this and put back on there. Of course, that slides up on there super nice. All right. And then, I'll need that up there. Now, these back around to the front. Da-da-da-da. All right, I think it's break time. Well, I was at a point in the video where I had almost it's between 40 and 45 minutes long. So I'm going to have to divide it up because I don't know how long a video I can make. And even if I went an hour, it wouldn't finish everything. But, you know, if you can see behind me, I got the intake is all the way on. And I'm back working on the fuel system. So in the next video, you're going to see me putting the rest of the top part of the motor together, trying to drain the fuel tank through the, well, I don't know if I videotaped me trying to drain the gas out of the tank, but let's say the fuel pump didn't work, so I got the gas tank out. We'll see all that in the next go around. That I do appreciate you watching. That I always like those thumbs up for the likes. Thank you for all those comments. And hey, if you're not a subscriber, better join on in, because no telling what else you're going to see on What's Broke Today. Thank you.